Why are all the prophets men? Well, okay, so this has been asked before, and I think that the idea, let's first answer it from the Quran's point of view. وَلَا تَتَمَنَّوْا مَا فَضَّلَ اللَّهُ بِهِ بَعْضَكُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ لِلرِّجَالِ نَصِيبٌ مِّمَّا اكْتَسَبُوا وَلِلنِّسَاءِ نَصِيبٌ مِّمَّا اكْتَسَبْنَا وَاسْأَلُوا اللَّهَ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. Allah says, He tells men and women the following in Surah An-Nisa, by the way, the surah of women, right? He says to them, He says to all of us, don't wish for some things in which Allah gave advantage to some of you over others. Allah gave some things to men that He did not give to women. He gave men certain responsibilities, for example, that He did not give to women. He gave women certain responsibilities that He did not give to men. Don't wish for what one has that the other doesn't. لِلرِّجَالِ نَصِيبٌ مِّمَّا اكْتَسَبُوا. Men have a portion from which they are going to earn, meaning whatever Allah has given them, they have to work with that and earn good deeds for themselves. وَلِلنِّسَاءِ نَصِيبٌ مِّمَّا اكْتَسَبْنَا. And women have a portion from whatever they have been given, they have to earn good deeds for themselves. وَاسْأَلُوا اللَّهَ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. And ask Allah to give you His preference. In other words, you are not better or worse if you got to do something a woman got to do or a man got to do. You are in a better position if you got to do something that Allah preferred for you to do. So this question behind it is the psychology of comparison. I feel like I am worth less if I'm not doing something the same as the opposite gender. But this is not just about men and women. This can be, I feel like I'm worth less if my sister got a master's degree and I didn't get it. Or my cousins had a very fancy wedding, but we didn't have a very fancy wedding. Comparison, 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 comparison. And by the way, the root of all comparison is Iblis. He got to get everybody to do sajda to him, and he got the responsibility on the earth, and I didn't get it. Comparison is one of the sicknesses that the devil wants to put inside you and me. Men being messengers of Allah, men being humiliated publicly because they were messengers of Allah, men being threatened to be killed because they were messengers of Allah. All of that was a responsibility Allah put on men. At the same time, yet, it is an honor that Allah put on men. But women have been given other honors. And by the way, historically, there's interestingly also a debate. There's a debate because Musa's mother received revelation to put the baby in the water. Right? And that's not something you can say, I just have a feeling I should put my baby in a river. You know, and if somebody says, I should put my baby in a river because Allah told me, then either it's revelation or you belong in a mental hospital. There's only two possibilities, and that clearly is revelation, because that's not a common sense thing to do, to put a basket in a moving, violent water river, right? The other case is angels are coming and speaking to Maryam directly, right? So if the idea is revelation only came directly to men, well, Quran says otherwise. Then came the issue, should we consider these incidents enough to consider Maryam and, Jochebed, which is her Hebrew name, Musa, should we consider them prophets? Allah knows. But did they receive revelation? For sure. For sure. Are they honored in Quran? For sure. So that would be my response to your really nice question.
But if you mean that a prophet is a person who's chosen and who's pure and holy, then there are several examples. And the best example I can quote is of Bibi Maryam. May Allah be pleased with her. It is mentioned in Surah Imran, chapter number 3, verse number 42. وَإِذْ قَالَتِ الْمَلَائِكَةُ يَا مَرْيَمُ. And behold, the angel said, O Mary, إِنَّ اللَّهَ اسْتَفَاكِ وَظَهَرَكِ وَاسْتَفَاكِ عَنِّسَاءِ الْعَالَمِينَ. That Allah has chosen thee and purified above the women of all nations. If you mean a prophet is a person who's chosen and purified, then we have the example of Bibi Maryam. May Allah be pleased with her, who was the mother of Jesus, may peace be upon him. We have other examples. If you read in Surah Tahrim, chapter number 66, verse number 11, it says that as an example for the believers is the wife of the Pharaoh, Bibi Asiya. May Allah be pleased with her. She prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Make for me in nearness to thee a mansion in the garden, and save me from the Pharaoh and his evil things. Imagine, she was the wife of the most powerful person of that time, Pharaoh, and she rejects all the luxury and asks for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in exchange a mansion in the garden. According to Islam, there are 4 prophet women, besides Bibi Maryam and Bibi Asiya, may Allah be pleased with them. The other examples are of Bibi Fatima and Bibi Khadija, may Allah be pleased with them both. Hope that answers the question.
Several studies looking at this crucial relationship between a young child and its mother all conclude the same thing. Newborns and older babies need their mothers constantly to be there, night and day, in order to develop to their full potential, both physically and mentally. This crucial time even has an impact late into adolescence. One study looked at a child's cognitive skills and linked this with the amount of time the child spent with its mother in their early years, and showed that the positive effect of mothers spending time with their children was large. It was equivalent in magnitude to between 20 and 40% of the advantage that young children enjoy from having a mother with a university degree, as opposed to having a mother with no qualifications. It's no secret then that for a significant chunk of a woman's life, prioritizing her young children when they need her most means that she will often have to put the other responsibilities and activities to one side for a period of time. Bearing the duty of prophethood or caliphate doesn't allow for this. A prophet or imam is required to be available constantly, night and day, a little like how a mother is needed for a young baby. There is no setting aside the duties of a prophet. There is no prioritizing other responsibilities over this duty and role. It becomes their sole occupation, their sole concern. If women can't give their full attention to the position of prophethood, then that means they either can't fulfill their young children's needs when they need them most, or they can't fulfill their role as a prophet. Both roles require immense devotional sacrifice. Another aspect when looking at this is the physical toll that a woman's physiology goes through on a monthly basis. As a result of menstruation, women can become anemic and go through hormonal changes that can cause tiredness, pain, lethargy, and in some cases even nausea and vomiting. According to the World Health Organization, globally, anemia affects nearly 25% of the world's population. The population group with the greatest number of individuals affected is non-pregnant, menstruating women. In Islamic practice, women can't engage in prayer or fasting during these monthly cycles or immediately after childbirth. They can engage in other forms of remembrance of God, but prayer and fasting are abrogated for them as a form of God's mercy. That these ritual obligations, so key to the Islamic faith that they constitute its pillars, are annulled for women during these times highlights that this time can be physically demanding for many women. It's almost as if God knows when we're having a hard time. Who knew? An imam or khalifa is required to be on hand day in, day out, and to fulfill duties such as leading congregational prayer, meeting families with problems that require counsel, and tending to the organizational needs of the community at large. They also need to be physically ready to receive direction from God through revelation and other types of spiritual experiences. If a woman by default can't always be available at all times, then the obligations of this role would be neglected. But so what, I hear you say? That still means women are excluded from attaining the same spiritual ranks of prophethood and caliphs, right? Wrong. Women can attain the same spiritual station of being God's beloved servants as that of prophets and caliphs, even if they aren't assigned that title and duty. Indeed, it has been women that have been cited in the Quran as models for the believers. In chapter 66, the Quran states, "And Allah sets forth for those who believe the example of the wife of Pharaoh, when she said, 'My Lord, build for me a house with thee in the garden, and deliver me from Pharaoh and his work, and deliver me from the wrongdoing people.' And the example of Mary, the daughter of Imran, who guarded her private parts, so we breathed into him of our spirit, and she fulfilled in her person the words of her Lord and his books, and was one of the obedient." Women such as Mary, the mother of Jesus, and the wife of Pharaoh have both been cited as examples for all believers, both men and women. Women are therefore not excluded from the personal spiritual benefits of prophets or caliphs. Women can experience direct communication from God through revelation, visions, and true dreams too. It is simply that women are exempted from the function of public spiritual leadership. In our pursuit of being materially equal to men in every respect, we negate the everyday reality of what it's like to be a woman in today's society. Being equal doesn't need to mean being identical. The Quran declares women equal to men clearly by stating women have similar rights on men as men have over women, but it also recognizes our differences. In seeking equality in modern day, have we lost sight of a key part of what it means to be a woman by disregarding the importance and difficulties of motherhood? Have we made an unrealistic and burdensome expectation on women to carry both roles in society simultaneously? Muslim women don't need saving from their Islam. They need reminding of their Islam. Reminding that it was Islam that brought to them their right to inheritance, the right to divorce, the right to choose their spouse, their right to work, their right to an education, to name a few. It was Islam that brought them spiritual equality and equal rewards in deeds, whereas in other religions they are looked down upon as the origin of sin itself. In short, women don't need to have the chance to be prophets or caliphs simply because all doors of absolute nearness to God are open to them. Their gender is no barrier to attaining the highest station of a believer in Islam. And this idea of women being robbed of the opportunity of public spiritual leadership is misguided. The duty of a prophet or caliph is to be entirely dedicated to the community they're sent to guide. It's not a position of grandeur or opportunity. In fact, it's a burden and responsibility that requires immense sacrifice. It's a responsibility one would never want to be placed upon their shoulders if one truly understood its sacrifice.